Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. A mother is speaking out after an assault on her autistic son. A video of the incident now circulating on social media has her calling for the suspects to turn themselves in. Plus, a petition going around is asking the city to fix some traffic woes due to the construction of the electric vehicle battery plant. And we introduce you to some Chatham-Kent residents who are pushing back on a proposed landfill. They're concerned about unintended chemical waste and setting a precedent. A Windsor mother wants the young people involved in an alleged group assault to turn themselves in. She says the assault has stripped the independence from her son, who has autism. The CBC's Chris Ensing has more.
It happened here Saturday night. A 16-year-old boy with autism about to take the bus home, assaulted by a group of young people looking to fight.
They were asking him to fight. He wasn't interested. They said if you don't cooperate, it's going to be worse. He tried to run. Another group of kids who came from McDonald's stopped him, and then both groups just began attacking him.
Police are investigating. They're calling it a group assault and are searching for suspects. His mother says the boy broke his arm and will have a scar on his face. CBC News is not naming her to protect her son's identity.
I think it's very important for parents in the community to be aware that this is happening. I was told by one officer that there are often fights or more than one-on-one happening, group fights happening at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and Devonshire Mall almost every Friday and Saturday night.
She says her neurodivergent son has been gaining independence through boxing classes and taking the city bus around Windsor. She offered him a ride home that night, but he wanted to take the bus. She says if she knew what the officer told her about how often fights were occurring, she would have done things differently.
So I think it's important for people to know, and I think that other parents with kids on the spectrum that want to promote independence, I think it's going to be harder for them to feel comfortable with helping develop that independence for their children in a world like this.
Video of the incident has been posted online. The teen's mom not sure why this fight started. She wants the people in the video to turn themselves in.
All of these kids involved to understand their part in this, to understand the damage that they caused, not only to my son, but to my family and to the other children in the community that are scared. I would like them to be honest and take accountability for what they did. I want them to feel remorse and just really deeply reflect on what they did in order to learn and grow and start to begin to make better choices.
Representatives with Devonshire Mall have not responded to a request for comment. Anyone with information is asked to contact Windsor Police. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
A petition has started to provide better access to the Twin Oaks area after construction on the electric vehicle battery plant closed a main road. As the CBC's Dale Molnar found out, there's frustration over an increase in traffic.
Hey, we're all frustrated in this area. We all think something needs to be done.
Orthodontist Mark Peretti says ever since the city closed EC Row Avenue to Banwell Road last year, getting in and out of the Twin Oaks Business Park has been challenging at peak times, with major traffic backups. There is now only one way in or out, and that's along Twin Oaks Drive to Lozon Parkway.
We were here working and a truck hit a power line right on Anchor Drive there, which basically closed any traffic into or out of this area, totally shut it down. So everyone who was in this area was literally stranded for about 2 hours that day.
Peretti has started an online petition to get the city to connect the area with another access road. Other people who work in the area confirm off camera they are angry too. The pharmacist at this pharmacy agrees something needs to be done.
It's been very hard. Patients are complaining that it's a little bit more dangerous. There's a lot more traffic.
Peretti says losing bus service here has made matters worse. He's worried first responders might not be able to get to a scene in the event of an emergency. The city's executive director of engineering says they are aware of the situation and are monitoring it, but they don't have a solution yet.
We're monitoring and we're trying to see what the best option is. That closure of EC Road did go through the proper road closure, and so we're kind of trying to see what we can do to work with the businesses in that area. And so I don't really have an update for you at this point, no.
Peretti believes there is an area off Munich Crescent that might be a good location for a new access road. This remnant of Lausanne Road is still here, and if a level crossing could be constructed across train tracks, it would hook up with the southerly portion of Lausanne Road on the other side. When the battery plant opens, workers will have their own entrance off Banwell Road, but Peretti says that won't solve the problem.
So again, the battery plant's not open yet, so all this current traffic that we're dealing with will still continue to have to be dealt with.
So far, he has around 700 names on his petition. Peretti is hoping to add the names of Green Shield employees to his petition once their strike is over, and then he intends to take the petition to City Council. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
People in Chatham-Kent community are mobilizing to fight plans for a landfill site. The municipality has no power to approve or deny it. Concerned citizens warn the implications could waft far beyond their backyards right across the province. CBC Windsor's Peter Duck has been looking into the many sides of the story, and he joins us now. Peter, can you give us a little rundown on the history of the site?
Well, Meg, it's just north of Dresden. The property in question, not that big, about 35 hectares. It's barely been used for a long time, but back when Dresden was its own town, we're talking before 1998, ash from an incinerator was brought there to be disposed of.
So what is the new plan for this land?
Well, there's a company called York One that owns it now, and it wants to expand the small waste disposal site already on the books so that it could be about 30 times larger. It could receive 6,000 tons of solid waste every day. Much of this would be construction and demolition waste, and a group has formed to fight this, calling itself Dresden Cared. That's an acronym that stands for Citizens Against Reckless Environmental Disposal. They say the company has not been as forthcoming as it should be with what it plans to do at the site, and they fear it could change down the road.
My fear is that he gets this and the government comes along and says, we gave you approvals for a landfill. We want you to switch from a regenerative recycling facility to a full-blown landfill because we need a place. And since you've gone through all this, you've got the approvals, this is what we want to do. Can you imagine living within 1 kilometer of a full-blown landfill? A whole community of almost 3,000 people.
We have such an amazing economy and town and spirit here that this is really putting a damper on people's spirits. And really, it's just, I think a lot of people are just hurt and confused and just need some direction, which is what we're hoping to give the community, is just some direction on here's the facts and here's what we can do about it, and kind of give them their power back and give them their voice back.
Peter, that last quote there, what did she mean that people don't have a voice to speak about this?
Well, there are a couple of issues here, Meg. The big one is that the local municipality, Chatham-Kent, has no say in this whatsoever. The project does not have to go through any kind of rezoning process. That's because it was used for a purpose like this in the past. It's all in the hands of the province through the Ministry of Environment. The other thing is that this area happens to have no sitting MPP right now. It's in the riding of Lambton-Kent Middlesex, where Monty McNaughton resigned last fall. No by-election has been called yet to replace him. There are municipal politicians who have been speaking out. They're especially concerned about the damage local roads could sustain with all the truck traffic.
I've heard that there could be upwards of 700 trucks a day coming through. That does seem a little excessive, but I don't know. And then I've heard numbers of 175 trucks coming through a day. So that's excessive.
We all know that traffic is no fun, but what are some of the bigger implications of this?
Well, the people I talked to say this could happen in any other location that was historically used in this way. This situation has captured the attention of environmentalists. They want to make sure this case gets a thorough evaluation.
Some of the endangered species that exist in the East Sydenham are globally significant. So that this has broader implications than just the community, although the community level impacts would be potentially quite severe.
Now, I did not get a chance to interview anyone from the company, but it did email me a statement and a fact sheet. It says it's in the early stages of the provincial process, and it's working on a species at risk study as well as a traffic control study. It emphasizes that it's construction materials it's interested in, not stuff that smells bad, and that its primary goal will be to divert recyclable construction materials from landfills. The Office of the Environment Minister declined an interview. However, we did get a comment from the Premier when he was down in southwestern Ontario yesterday.
I believe in the people. If people like something, we do it. If they don't, we don't do it. It's about as simple as that. But let's have a chat. There might be other reasons.
We do know that the Dresden Cared Group has been talking with the opposition party, so Ford may hear more questions about this at the legislature before long. And this is sure to be an active political issue once that by-election is called this spring.
Well, thanks so much for that, Peter. That's the CBC's Peter Duck. An 87-year-old is suffering severe injuries after being hit by a vehicle on the city's East End yesterday morning. Windsor police say it happened near Huron Terrace Retirement Home and East Riverside Park. Officers have determined a vehicle was traveling eastbound on the road when it hit the individual. Anyone with information or who witnessed the crash is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. Often referred to as the closest thing to a dinosaur, Windsor, Essex is one of the last places in Canada where you can find baby sturgeon. But even here in our region, the fish's population has been declining, and the Great Lakes Institute for Environmental Research is trying to fix that.
Why is there such a decline? What's causing this decline?
Yeah, the decline has sort of varied over the years. Years ago, it used to be because of over-harvesting. You know, in the Great Lakes in the early 1900s, we took advantage of that food resource, and then eventually shipping lanes kind of ruined their spawning habitat, and then it became dams for electricity. So it's been a number of things that have kind of knocked them down. The good news is we've made huge progress to bring them back.
Can you tell us or expand on this project, what it looks like at the university and how you're going to be able to bring sturgeon back?
Of course, yeah. And the university is one of the key players amongst all the Great Lakes players to do this reintroduction program with even our U.S. partners, where what we're doing is really trying to better understand, you know, people have tried to bring them back through the lakes, but their success has been limited because the fish are sort of lost in the river, lost in the lake. So we're trying to naturalize the breeding environment they're growing up in to try to make it more natural. So we're trying to close that environmental mismatch. And we have a team of graduate students at the University of Windsor solving problems every day on this question.
How do you do that?
Yeah, well, what they do is they're actually raising them in LaSalle, right on the Detroit River, in these in tanks where they range from, you know, essentially no background, essentially a blank tank with nothing in it, all the way to a very enriched tank with tons of rocks and other things that are more naturalized. And then they're comparing their behaviors, their stress, and their swimming abilities to see which ones do best before we let them go in the future.
And how's it going so far?
Well, so far so good. They're about 8 months old now. We hatched them from egg, and now they're like our essentially kindergartners, and they're doing really well. Yeah, so I give
Wait
them
till
all.
they become toddlers.
Oh yes, we're also worried about those teenage years. So they're doing well so far. They all get an A+ in our books.
If you couldn't get outside to enjoy this beautiful day, you're going to get another shot at it tomorrow. Your weather forecast coming up after the break. Mike DiPaolo is here on this sunny evening to give us this week's weather forecast.
If you're someone like myself who might have been feeling a little bit sad that you might not be in Florida with the rest of your family for March break, well, if you're in the Windsor region, you have nothing to be upset about because it is almost tropical-like conditions here in the southwest of Ontario. Tropical is a stretch, but it is beautiful weather. Now, it is going to be a warm night. It's going to be around the mid-single digits, and it's going to lead to even more sun on Wednesday. It's going to be reaching close to 21 degrees for our high, which is amazing for this time of year, and no better timing than March break for it to be so beautiful outside. Now, it's also going to be a clear night when it comes to your Wednesday, and we're going to just keep talking about how beautiful Wednesday is because once we reach closer to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there'll be some more cloud cover and precipitation, but let's not worry about that today on Tuesday. Now, taking a look at what the daytime highs are for the region, well, today was a daytime high close to 18 degrees, which is warmest in the entire region. Taking a look at areas like Ottawa, which are at 9 degrees, it's pretty cold over there. Now, here's what else we can expect when we're looking at that wind and how it's going to be affecting us here in the Windsor region. Well, what that wind is telling us is Tuesday, strong winds from the Gulf of Mexico coming up, 51 kilometers per hour. That's actually a speeding ticket in my neighborhood once that wind passes. But as you get closer towards your Thursday, we're going to be seeing a shift in the wind as the wind is going to be moving from just coming in from the south to now coming in from the north. And that's going to result in the cooler temperatures, which will be happening. Now, here's what it looks like from a bird's eye view over there where we're located. Well, it's going to be about a lot of cloud cover when it comes to your Wednesday. A lot of the cloud cover which will be coming in will be coming closer to your Thursday because Thursday is a day where Windsor is going to be getting quite a significant amount of rain. The reason I say significant is because it's going to be more than other areas such as Toronto would be receiving. Now, looking at daytime highs, one thing to note as we get closer towards your weekend, well, the temperatures will be starting to drop. And looking at our 3 and 5 day forecast, one thing we will also see is that the temperatures will be getting much cooler for your overnights. Now, with the daytime highs dropping, it's going to steadily get ourselves down to around 7 degrees on Sunday, and then Sunday's precipitation will go from drizzle to potential flurries. Well, hope your March break is going well, and we got some sunshine coming our way on Wednesday. Over to you, Meg.
Tomorrow is the day. Thanks so much for that, Victor. We have more news coming up after the break. Haiti's unelected and exiled Prime Minister Ariel Henry has agreed to resign. The move comes as the country is overwhelmed by violent gangs and amid mounting international pressure.
Comme toujours dit, pas aucun sacrifice qui est trop grand pour pays noir Haïti.
Henry made the announcement after meetings in Jamaica with regional leaders and the U.S. Secretary of State to discuss the country's spiraling crisis. He says his government will step down once a transitional council is established. Henry has been unable to enter Haiti after violence forced the closure of the country's main airport. CARICOM, the political alliance of 15 Caribbean countries, including Haiti, welcomed his resignation. The middleman in the Israel-Hamas war says a ceasefire deal is still a long way off. The Foreign Ministry of Qatar says the main obstacles involve demands for an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages. But there are new developments in the efforts to get aid into Gaza. Journalist Sarah Coates has the latest.
The tensions are running high right across the region, including here in the city of Jerusalem, with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan now underway. Mediators had really been hoping to achieve a deal to see a ceasefire and also the release of hostages by Ramadan to try and bring down tensions. But we've just heard from Qatar's foreign ministry, which says that a deal is not close, citing a number of obstacles on the ground. Hamas says that it wants to have an agreement that there will be a complete ceasefire. This is something that Israel has been saying it is totally against, that it will not leave Hamas in power. While Israel also says that it wants to see a list of captives that are still alive, which Hamas says that is simply something that it cannot do due to Israel's bombing campaign, because it doesn't know where these hostages are and it doesn't know which ones are alive. Meanwhile, a pilot project has begun trying to get aid through a maritime corridor from Cyprus to Gaza. The Open Arms, an NGO ship provided by Spain, is now making its way across the Mediterranean laden with 200 tons of aid, a towing barge full of flour, rice and other proteins. This is hoping to really address the dire humanitarian situation on the ground inside Gaza, with the United Nations saying that a quarter of the population is on the brink of famine. Questions do remain as to just how this boat will actually unload this aid and how the aid will be distributed, given that there are currently no working ports in Gaza. They have all been destroyed. Sarah Coates for CBC News, Jerusalem.
Millions of Canadians use loyalty programs to earn rewards and score deals. But a Quebec woman is warning people to be alert after she noticed 100,000 Aeroplan miles were missing from her account. Steve Rukavina looks at how thieves use a technique known as email bombing to hide their tracks.
Jacinthe Dupuis first noticed something was wrong when she checked her email yesterday afternoon.
I saw I had like an insane amount of spam in my inbox that happened in the course of like the last 10 minutes.
Her account was bombarded with hundreds of junk emails.
Well, I think it's about 400.
Dupuis did a quick Google search and found she'd been the victim of something called email bombing.
Email bombing is just a way to flood people with emails. We have a term in cybersecurity which is called false flag. A false flag means it's trying to draw your attention to one thing while criminals are doing another.
In Dupuis' case, the hackers were trying to prevent her from noticing a legitimate email alert from Aeroplan buried in amongst all those spams. By the time she found it, it was already too late.
They just said changes were made to your account. So I went to check and then it was kind of a heart attack moment because I saw I only had 12,000 points left.
100,000 points were missing. While Dupuis was at home in Léry on the South Shore, someone had used those points to book a flight from Abu Dhabi to Kuala Lumpur.
I know it's a little bit superficial because it's just points, it's not actual money, but I was like, I still feel a bit violated.
the best way to prevent this type of thing is to enable two-factor authentication from the get-go. Air Canada allows you to set up your phone number as a secondary factor.
He says people should do that with all online accounts, email, banking, social media, whatever. As for Dupuis, she says Aeroplan quickly reimbursed her missing points and told her they're investigating to try to figure out exactly what happened. Steve Rukavina, CBC News, Montreal.
She may not have won an Oscar on Sunday night, but actress Lily Gladstone made her mark. The Indigenous performer has been making history throughout this award season, and as Magda Gabriselassie tells us, she's been sharing the spotlight on the red carpet with Indigenous designers.
Lily, can we have you on this way? Lily Gladstone's red carpet looks stunned and inspired, putting Indigenous designers on the same stage as some of the world's best-known luxury brands.
I am wearing Joe Big Mountain with Gucci.
The Killers of the Flower Moon Star has made awards season history. The Siksagate Setapi and Namipu actor is the first Indigenous performer to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Drama, and the first to earn the SAG Award for an outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. Along the way, in magazines and on the red carpet, she's been wearing Indigenous designs, bringing the bling in beaded jewelry and striking a pose in standout looks. Among those that made the cut to dress the star is Anishinaabe designer Leslie Hampton. Hampton, who is based in Toronto, designed this look worn by Gladstone in Variety magazine.
So this is what we sent.
And this dress as an option for the star to consider for the Oscars.
It's so exciting to be able to have that connection with Lily and to celebrate her massive achievements and moments that are happening right now, not only for her, but for Indigenous people.
And it's an exciting time for the many Indigenous designers tapping into new or traditional methods.
You'll see that with like quill work and beadwork and ribbon skirts.
Sage Paul says what's happening in fashion right now is monumental.
To see Indigenous made garments and fashion and accessories on the red carpets, on the runways, even Indigenous models, it's inspiring. We can see younger generations seeing themselves represented in those spaces.
They too could one day make their own mark on future award seasons to come. Magda Gabriselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
4 long-term crew members of the International Space Station are safely back home. They'd been in orbit for about 6.5 months.
What a beautiful sight. As you can see on your screen, we have Dragon splashdown.
Their SpaceX Dragon capsule dropped into the Gulf of Mexico off Pensacola, Florida, a little before dawn. The 4 crew members aboard are from the U.S., Denmark, Japan, and Russia. It's the 7th successful round trip for SpaceX. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.